Hello everybody and welcome to this eco sculpture workshop. My name is Chris Reyna and we are here today to do kind of an ecological sculpture workshop. Now this is in conjunction with DLR Libraries, Dún Laoghaire Rathdown Libraries, and also Cruinniú na nÓg. So Cruinniú na nÓg is a kind of a day for students, kids, children and people of all ages really, and there's national events happening all over the country. Most of them are online. There are a few face-to-face ones, but we are starting a little bit early by doing this workshop today. So in order to do this workshop, you're going to need a few materials. So you might gather those up now, and I'll tell you what you're going to need. So very quickly, you're going to need one of these. So this is just a regular small water bottle. It doesn't have to be a water bottle, it can be any bottle, but just make sure it's clean and the label is removed as well. And that is important, that the label is removed. Also, you will want to take off the cap and put it aside. We might use it later, but then we might not too. So just take off the cap and put that aside as well. So you're going to need one of these per person. And the other thing you're going to need is, and I'll reach down here because I have one down here, is one of these. Just a hairdryer. That's all. Okay, regular hairdryer. If it has this kind of an attachment at the end, so much the better. Okay, and that just clips on. But if it doesn't, that's okay too. Don't worry too much. That's okay. If you don't have one of those there, that's fine. Now, there is one third thing you're going to need in order to do this, and that is just some rubbish. And yeah, I do mean actual rubbish. So just to give you an example, I suppose, I took a walk around my house where I am viewing, where you're viewing me today, is in my own home. And I kind of went through the bins, is really what I did. And I picked out a whole amount of, and you can see there, I have kind of a whole bag full of, or box full of, just absolutely rubbish, just completely anything, really, okay? So the only small caveat to the getting of the rubbish is that whatever you get should be able to fit in this circle here on the top of your water bottle. So it should go in there. Now, if you have a pair of scissors and you have something and it won't fit, so maybe you have a big piece of paper like that, well, you could roll it up, but you could also cut it and stuff it in there. Another thing I would find very useful is some sort of a stick or a straw or something. So I have there, this is just a skewer, and I'm going to use this, so when I start to put my rubbish in here, I'm going to poke that rubbish in like this, okay? And start to poke my rubbish in like that to kind of stuff it down in there, right? So those are really the only things that you'll need. Now, I do have one more thing, and that's only because I know I kind of got all different kinds of rubbish today, and sometimes the rubbish, and if you're going through your bins, or if you have collected some things already, then maybe you don't need to worry about this, but that's okay. But I just have a little face cloth, a little washcloth there, and I've wet it because I'm going to want to clean my hands when we're poking some stuff into the rubbish, into the bottle. Sorry, poking some of the rubbish into the bottle. So those are the things you're going to need for this workshop. And the hairdryer was not for your hair, but that will become apparent very shortly. Okay, that will become apparent very shortly. So if you're doing this in school, all right, then perhaps your teacher can help you find some rubbish. You can go to your own bin, you can have a look around and things like that. And as part of this, this is the thing I want you to pay attention to. So when you go looking, or if you have already found your rubbish, I want you to think about how much rubbish that you've gotten, because really this is all about ecologically sound things to do. And we're just highlighting that by making a sculpture out of some rubbish, okay? And the amount of waste that we as people produce every year is quite significant. So I'm going to show you some facts and figures in a moment. I'm going to give you a few minutes just to make sure you have everything together, because there is a few things and they're a bit diverse, and especially a hairdryer, you might need a place to plug that in. Now, you won't need that till the very end, but you might need a place to plug in your hairdryer and things like that. So if you want to go off and get those different objects, make sure you have all of those objects. I'll give you a couple of minutes, okay? I'll give you a couple of minutes. So it is 7 minutes past 11 now. So I'll give you maybe until about 10 past, maybe quarter past, to dig out all of those things. So you're going to have to jump up and zip around to get those things. So off you go. Go and grab those things, and then we'll all come back here and we'll meet, and I'll show you how we're going to put it together. But first I'm going to tell you about some interesting facts, I think, and they might surprise you, some of these. But find your materials and things that you need and equipment now, and we will all meet back here in about 5-10 minutes, something like that. Okay, so you have about 5 minutes to 10 minutes. Pop off, get all the different things you need. If you already have them there in front of you, just lay them out so they're easily to hand, and we will meet back here in just a moment. Okay, welcome back everybody. So hopefully you've gotten all your materials together and kind of sorted out and ready to go, okay? So I just want to go over a few things with you first before we start to build our sculpture. And the things I just want to talk to you a little bit about first, and I'm going to show you some pictures and some statistics that might be interesting. Statistics are not often very interesting, but in this case, I think they might be. So again, as people, as humans, we produce a lot of waste every year. In fact, we produce a lot of waste every day. And if you've gone out looking for waste, as I did, again, here's my little box of waste there. So if you've gone out looking for that, then you'll see, I'm sure that your bins anywhere that you are quite full of things. So I'm actually just going to pop over because I want to show you some interesting information, and this is freely publicly available information. I've downloaded this from the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency website of Ireland. All right, and these are all statistics and facts that the EPA has put together. Now you'll notice when I show you these, and I'm going to show you these in just a moment, but you'll notice that they're usually a couple of years old when you look at them. So we're in 2021 now, so the facts you're going to look at, I think, are from 2019, a couple of years ago. And that's just because it takes quite a while to put and gather all of that information together. And next year they'll have 2020's dates, and the following year they'll have this year's dates, and so on and so on and so on. So I'm just going to jump over to a different screen, and I'm going to talk you through a few facts there, if that's okay. So here we go. Now, so you can see here, okay, as I said, that this is the Environmental Protection Agency statistics. And in fact, I said 2019, I think, but this is actually clearly 2017. So these facts are for the Irish household waste statistics, all right? So if we look down here just a little bit, we will see that over the last 10 years, we can see that the household waste generation has remained largely unchanged in Ireland. All that means is that we have produced almost all the same amount of waste that we have over the last 10 years. And that is a little bit shocking, I think. I think that's a little bit shocking. And moreover, and let's just have a look here for a moment, the average Irish person has produced 321, that's a bit large, sorry, 321 kilograms of waste. So if you're not sure what a kilogram is, basically, as you can see here, that is the weight of a baby elephant. So in 1 year, every single one of us in the country of Ireland has produced the amount of waste that is equal in size to a baby elephant. And that is really huge. I think that's really, really huge. And I think that that's a fact that can be a little bit scary. So just move on and have a look here. So using the brown bins, so in Ireland we have a waste disposal system, and you can see here that using these brown bins, okay, allows us, okay, to recycle. And plastic packaging, as we can see from this fact up here, so plastic packaging has accounted for 11% of household waste in 2017. Okay, and again, 11% is quite a lot. And even further, we can see here that we have put 250,000 or a quarter of a ton of waste into bins in 2017. And that is equal to 19,000 double-decker buses. So that would be like one bus stacked on top of another. And that distance, if you think of it in that manner, would be enough to go from Dublin to Galway. So that's how much tons of waste in Ireland we have produced in 2017. So let's just have a look down here. We'll move down a little bit further. We won't go too much in facts and things because I know you want to do a workshop, and you're quite right, and to make an ecological sculpture. But it helps to know, before we start the workshop, it helps to know why we're doing this. It's always a good reason to know why. So we can see here that there's different types of bin usage across the different regions in Ireland, and kinds of behavioral factors. So there's brown is organic waste, green is recycled waste, black is residual waste, and then blue is the total amount of waste collected. And in this particular chart, they've divided this up here into the southern counties. They've divided it up into the eastern and the Midland counties in the country. And up here, they have divided it up into the Connacht and Ulster counties in Ireland. So as we can see from the chart, in the eastern and the Midlands seems to be the most amount of waste. And the residual waste and the recycling and the organic waste are pretty much the same. They're not very, very different. So how can we kind of reduce some of this waste? Well, firstly, we just need to make sure that we do put the correct waste into the correct bins. And black bin waste could be reduced by over half, of 56%. So more than half, if we actually separate our waste correctly, as we should. So food waste should go into one bin, plastics and glass should be recycled, and then all other waste can go into your black bin. And 32% of waste in a recycling bin shouldn't actually be there. So that just means that we can do a little bit better in terms of recycling. We just need to be a little bit more careful about how we do that. And then for our brown bins, household food waste, the difficulty is here is that we're still putting a lot of food waste into either the green bin for recycling, which is not correct, or a black bin for just throwing away, which also is not correct. So we just need to be really careful and really sure that we separate out our waste the right way. So there's certain things, if we look down here, that don't actually belong in household bins at all. And those would be glass, textiles, and textiles are kind of any kind of clothing items, batteries. Batteries definitely have to be disposed of correctly because they have bad chemicals in them, like acid. And sometimes batteries are just thrown away into a household bin, and that would not be the right way to do it. There's also hazardous waste, things like aerosols. So an aerosol would be things like spraying on deodorant, or if you had a cleaning product of some kind. Also motoring products, and what they mean there is things like oil and things that you put into your car. And then household and garden chemicals, so they would be things that you might put into your garden and things like that. And in order to dispose of all of these items correctly, you need to bring them to a recycling center. And there are recycling centers in every county and almost in every village at this point in Ireland. So it's just a matter of going to them to recycle. So what can we do to recycle better? Well, as we said already, we can put the food waste in the brown bin or to compost it at home. And I won't go into composting at the moment, but basically just put your food waste into the brown bin. And then put your recyclables into the green bin. And they should be clean, they should be dry, and they should all be loose. And that's quite important. So a lot of people might think, and this is here's a really good example. Certainly I love pizza, but my pizza box, which is made from cardboard, should be recyclable. But because it's dirty and has food waste on it, it can't be recycled really, unfortunately. So that's just a good example of putting the right thing into the right place. So my pizza box has to go into my plain rubbish, not recycled. But if I have some plastics and they have a recycling logo on them, then I can wash them and then put them correctly into the green bin. So to not make so much waste in the first instance. So really, if we wanted to just create less waste, Well, we should try, if we can, to avoid packaging and single-use products. And a single-use product, a very good example of this, are coffee cups. I'm sure that you've all been to shops and places like that, and you'll see that people purchase coffee and they purchase them in disposable cups. Well, there's 2 million of those cups used in Ireland every single day. So if any of you are good at mathematics, you could imagine in 1 week how many coffee cups there are. So you can imagine in 1 week how many coffee cups there are. And then if you multiply that by the number of weeks in every year, that's a lot of these disposable coffee cups being thrown away. So you can start to bring your own coffee cup perhaps. And make shopping lists. This is a very, very good piece of advice. So if you make a shopping list and don't just go to the shop with an idea in your head of maybe what you want, have an actual list, know the ingredients of the foods that you wish to purchase. And also say no to throwaway culture. So just here, if we say no to throwaway culture, and what throwaway culture is the idea of buying a shirt for a couple of wears and then just throwing that shirt away, or even a piece of equipment. So even a piece of electronical equipment, so something like a laptop. Now, of course, you wouldn't use a laptop a couple of times and throw it away, but if the laptop breaks, try and get it fixed. Try and get it repaired. Or if you have outgrown that laptop, perhaps pass it on to someone else who might need it if it's still working. And if it isn't still working, perhaps you could repair it. And there's a really good place here called repairmystuff.ie. That's a website, and that will tell you about professionals all around the country who can repair pieces of equipment. And I would be one of those people myself as well too. I do some tech repairs and things like that. So in terms then of food waste, if you want to go to stopfoodwaste.ie, they will also give you lots of information on that website. And if you're looking for more information on how to recycle and the correct ways to recycle your products that you throw away, then you're going to go to mywaste.ie. So that is everything really. And if you want more information about any of that, of course, you can go to www.epa.ie. But I am not here, and you are not here to completely be told lots of information. So I know that you're here to make something, because I am a maker. That's what I do. I make things. But I just wanted to give you some interesting information, and I think it is interesting, about how much kind of waste we produce as people every single day and week and year in this country and in all countries around the world. And it is a problem, and it is a problem that we need to look at very seriously. So without further ado, let's start to make something. So get your plastic bottle, okay, and I'm going to put it right here. Now, for me, where I am, so it's going to be very hard for me to do this and show you things here. So what I have is I actually have a camera over my head. So I'm going to swap to that camera so you can kind of see my bottle right here in front of me in that kind of way. And that'll be a little bit easier for you, and you can follow along with me then. So, all right. Now, so here we go. So now this is my desk. You can see where I'm working at right here. So I have a plastic bottle, and over here I have a large amount of rubbish and waste. Maybe not very large, but certainly large-ish anyway. And I have my plastic bottle. So what you're going to do and what I'm going to do at the same time is I want you to try and fill this plastic bottle, okay, this plastic bottle with what's in here. And as part of that, okay, I want you to think about how much waste is right here and how we might compress that into this bottle. And think about how good it would be is if we didn't have this much waste and we didn't have to fill this bottle. And then when we're done filling the bottle, we are going to do one final thing, which is going to create the sculpture. And I'm going to have a little bit Chris is going to do a little bit more talking to you, unfortunately, about facts and figures. But for the moment, I have my little stick here, okay, my little skewer. So I'm going to poke things into the bottle. So off you go. You can follow along with me. So I just have, you're going to see loads of my rubbish. This is all rubbish I got from my house. So I have a little plastic bag. So I'm going to kind of roll that up. And I'm going to see if I can stuff that just into the neck of the bottle there. And yeah, I think that's okay. So we can just stuff that plastic bag in there. And I have another plastic bag, just the same. Okay. And we can see, okay, these plastic bags are kind of something that I put together that I had ordered online. And the screws and everything came in these plastic bags. So now that the thing has been put together, I just have these plastic bags and I just have to throw them away. I can't do anything else with them. And that is unfortunate. But at least now I'm going to make a little sculpture with them. What else do we have? Aha! So I have just a little bit of a sticker. Okay, that was rubbish. I found that into a bin. I'm going to fold that up and stuff that in. And already you can see that's starting to stick out a little bit. So here's where my stick is going to come in handy. So I can just poke things down a little bit, and now we can see that that has all fallen in, and that's fine now. So what else do I have? Aha! Well, this is a very interesting thing, so I'll show you this. These are little earbuds. Okay, so these are from a pair of headphones that my wife had, and the headphones have long since broken and been thrown away. And these earbuds I found lying in a little box with lots of other things, and they're no good because they're for different size ears, and she has used them, and so these just now need to be thrown away. So we'll stuff those in there. Aha, so we have kind of an old and kind of bad elastic band. I'll stuff that in there. Again, that's made of rubber, and that just has to be thrown away. What do we have here? Just some paper. Okay, and we'll fold that up, and we'll stuff that in. Now, aha, so we have something here. So this is just a packet of cat food, and as you can see, it's been opened and used. I have 2 cats, and those cats have now been fed with this packet of cat food. And now this just needs to be thrown away, and it is a piece of terrible rubbish. So I'm going to fold all this together. I'm going to fold it up and see if I can't stuff that in there. And this is one of those things, cat food sometimes can be a little bit smelly. So this is why I had a bit of a tissue there, because we may need to wipe our hands, for me anyway, after that. So I'm going to do that. I'll just take a wipe of that, that's fine. And we'll stuff that in there a bit more. So we'll stuff that in there a little bit further, that's fine. Now, so we have, yes, so bits of the back of a sticker. That's just bits of the back of a sticker. So again, more rubbish that just has to be thrown away. So you can follow along. Oh, we've got, yeah, there's a bit of a sticker there and some more plastic. There's a lot of plastic actually, isn't there? A lot of this seems to be plastic related things, unfortunately. And stuff that in there again. And that'll be good. Now, aha, wiggly eyes. So I had some wiggly eyes. I like to do silly things like put some jiggly eyes on things sometimes. But this was the top of that packet, and that was in my bin. So now I'm going to fold that up, and we will stuff that in there as well. What else do we have? Aha, so just a bit of wire. Okay, just some wire. So that's no good to me anymore. All right, although I do save a lot of wire for use in different things, but many people will just throw things like this away. And the other example of something like this would be very much the little ties that come on packets, things like for your sliced pan bread and things like that. There's always a little piece of plastic or wire or something like that to hold those bags together. So all those kind of things. And we end up just throwing all of those things away. Lots and lots of waste that we produce. So what do we, aha, so here we have an old toothpaste container. So I'm absolutely sure you all wash your teeth. And I do too, but this now is rubbish. Now that's not going to fit in there. So I just wonder, here I have a pair of scissors. So this could be a little bit messy because it's going to have some toothpaste left in it, even though I've squeezed it quite a lot. So let's take that and let's fold that. And this is also kind of a plastic. Not so much a plastic that you might expect, but it's a kind of plastic as well. That will just go in there, I'm hoping. Yep, that's good. Now, I don't know about this bit. I don't think that's going to go in, so we'll put that off to one side there. What else do we have in here? Aha! So I also have... So I have a bit of a scone that was left over, and that scone is no good anymore. It's been there for 3 or 4 days and was not eaten. So this is just some food waste that I happen to have here. So while we're doing this, think about maybe how much, at lunchtime, if your mom or dad makes your lunch, and how much of your lunch that you don't eat, but you just throw away. So there might be a good bit there. So I'm going to put some food waste in here. So I'm going to stuff that in, just like that, because I want to show all the different kinds of waste that we throw away into our bins. And food waste is one of those things that's a good example, and especially a scone, which is unfortunate, but sometimes we don't always eat all of the food that we have, and that's okay. You don't always have to eat everything, but it's a good idea, again, to manage what you eat and what you do. So I'm going to stuff all of that in there, and we get dirty now by stuffing bits of a scone in there. And look at that. There we go. This is getting very good. So my bottle is starting to fill up very quickly now. My bottle is starting to fill up already. I'm sure yours is too. So let's take that and let's fold that. And we could, of course, throw this away, but let's stuff this in there as well if we can. Let's see if we can stuff that in there. I think we can. Yeah, I think that's going to work. Let's stuff that in there. Yep. And we have a few crumbs, but that's quite all right. Now, use our stick and poke some of those things down and just try and cram as much stuff in there as we can. We want our plastic bottle to be pretty full. We want it to be pretty full and full of kind of interesting things as well. Okay, so I'm going to stop just for a moment and let's have a look at my plastic bottle. So we can see a bit of scone, a bit of a cat food thing. Oh, there's my elastic band. Plastic down at the bottom. There's part of the toothpaste container right there. I can see it. So part of the toothpaste container. And there's all kinds of other bits of rubbish. There's a bit of the wire in there, but I still have some room here at the top. So let's see what else we can find. So I have a business card here that we don't need anymore. So I'll fold this up and we'll pop that in there. Now, what else do we have? Aha! A Twix bar. Well, that was very tasty when I ate it, but that plastic I do not need anymore, and that was just going to go to the bin, so I'm going to stuff my wrapper, Twix wrapper, in there. And what else do we have here? Aha! Well, now that is a bit unfortunate. I got a cut, and that was a plaster that I had, so I'm going to stuff that plaster in there. Here is a couple of more, pieces of packaging. So like business cards, but just discount coupons from things that have been ordered, but are of no good to me anymore. And that was all things, I promise you, these were all things I just pulled out of my bin. What other kind of interesting things do we have? Well, here's something now, and I don't know if that's going to fit. It will, I think. So this is the head to a razor blade. So when we shave, any of us, so we will use almost certainly either a disposable razor or a disposable razor blade head. And these also are used quite a lot and then just thrown away. So let's add that in there as well. And for me, I'm going to be quite careful with that because clearly it is a blade. and I don't want to cut myself. Okay, so we stuff that in there. There we go. And what else do we have here? A couple of rusty safety pins. Yep, a couple of rusty safety pins. They'll go in there. What's that? Ah, this is a broken candle. So this was one of those candles off of a birthday cake. My niece had a birthday not that long ago, and that candle was used on her birthday cake. Now we'll stuff that in there. So what else do we have here? Aha, more bar wrappers. Look at that, a Nature Valley one. So that was very tasty at the time, but the wrapper, unfortunately, just has to be thrown away. And, oh, there's another Twix one. I didn't beat those at the same time, did I? Gosh, I hope not. Anyway, we'll stuff that Twix one in there as well. Now my bottle is getting extremely full, but that's good because we want our bottle to get very, very filled up. Now, can we do a little bit more? What else do we have here? Ah, well, this is an interesting thing. So that's a bit of a straw from something, and actually that's coming up soon in a workshop. So I have this. Now, this is something that a lot of people wouldn't throw away because it is a tool, and it's a metal tool. And again, this came just recently for me from something that I had to put together. But there was two of these tools, and in fact, it was something that wasn't it was very useful to put the thing together, but I also have this tool already. So this is just completely redundant to me. I just don't need it. And in fact, in the package anyway, there was two of them in the first place. So this, I'm just going to throw away because I don't need it, unfortunately. So it was great that they included the tool with the item that I had to put together, but unfortunately, oh, there's other bits and pieces there. It was no good to me. So just some rubbish here. Look at that. Actually, we'll wait one moment because we have some other things down here. So we have some Q-tips. Okay, things you might use to clean your ears, although there is some dispute over to whether or not you should. And let's see, I have another one of those here. Yes, let's stuff that in there too. And well, these are interesting. So this is a set of chopsticks that were used once and then washed and cleaned, and they have been sitting in my house for a long time. I would say 2 or 3 years almost. And I know that they'll never be used, so I'm just going to throw them away. So I've just used those to stuff things down a bit further. And I have a little tiny bit more room at the top. So just some more wrappers. I'm going to throw these in there. All right, so if you're stuffing things into your space, I think start to try and get your bottle filled, because we're about to move on to the last section of the workshop. And the last section is the actual sculpture section. So kind of where we are at the moment, we haven't really created a sculpture exactly. We've kind of started, but really what we've done is stuff some things into a bottle. And that's okay, because what we're about to do next is the sculpture bit. So now that's looking quite good for me. I have a little bit more room up here, maybe. A little bit more room there. So you might just see, what else do we have in here? Okay, oh yes, we have some more bits of stuff. I almost got to the end of everything in there. What's that? Oh yes, so that's a broken hanger, hanging my clothes on. That was broken. This bit of plastic, of course, is of no good to us. So we can stuff that in there. I wonder would that go all the way in? And I don't think it will, but it makes it interesting. It goes down to the bottom. So I might carefully here see if I can break that. And yep, now that's quite sharp and pointy there. So I'm going to be very careful about that. I'm going to use these chopsticks to stuff that in there. I think that's a good idea. And I have the other half of the hanger there. Let's do the same thing. Let's break that nice and carefully. And I'm going to stuff that in there as well too. And again, that's hard plastic, so I don't want to cut myself. So I'm going to be quite careful and use something else to push that in there. Now this is getting very good. I think we're nearly at the end now for me. I don't have too much more rubbish. There's an empty pill container. Let's see. I'm going to use the scissors perhaps to cut that and see if we can get that to go in as well. Okay, these can actually be quite sharp too, so if you were at home doing this, you'd want to be very careful okay, because the edges of these, okay, when you cut them, can be quite sharp, surprisingly so, actually, surprisingly sharp. So I just want to be very careful if you're cutting things, because edges can be very sharp as well. All right, I'm going to throw all of those out of the way. I think that's going to bring us nearly to the end of everything that we can put in here. I'm quite happy with all of that now. So now I have a bottle, plastic bottle, full of stuff. Absolutely full. And what I'm going to do is I actually have the lid. So for me, I'm going to put the lid on and I'm just going to shake it. Now there's nothing liquid in there, obviously, okay, but there's all kinds of rubbish and stuff. So I'm just going to even it out. Okay, I'm just going to even it out and shake it up a little bit. All right. So now I have evened that out. So I'll take the lid off because I don't want you to have the lid on for the next bit. That is going to be important. All right, so I'm going to move my scissors and my chopsticks, that became a very good tool, out of the way. I'll move this bit out of the way as well. So the next bit that you're going to do is this. So you will need the hairdryer for the next bit. And I just want to explain to you about plastic bottles. So as I did say to you, I was going to talk to you one more time about something. And that something is, in fact, called this. It's this bottle, which we all know is a plastic bottle. And this is difficult for me to say, so I'm looking it up here again. So this plastic that makes up this bottle and other bottles and lots of other things is called PET, PET plastic, and that stands for polyethylene terephthalate, polyethylene terephthalate. That's why I always have to look it up, because it's quite a hard thing to say and to remember. So that is what this bottle is made of. You can just remember that it's made of PET. Okay, it's made of PET. So PET has a very interesting quality, and that quality is what we're going to make our sculpture with now. So that quality is that it shrinks when you heat it. So now I expect you have an idea why we have a hairdryer, because what we are going to do is we are now going to make our sculpture bit, excuse me, and that sculpture bit is going to involve the hairdryer and it's going to involve the bottle. Now, I want you to be very careful about this next bit, because obviously hairdryers get quite hot. So you have to be very careful. And if you are in school, I definitely recommend that you have your teacher or your SNAs to give you a hand. And if you're at home, I absolutely recommend that you give your parents or an adult to give you a hand as well. Simply because this bit, you just have to be a little bit careful about the heat that we're about to produce. And you can start and stop. It doesn't have to keep going all the time. Okay, so all I'm going to do is no lid, again, no lid, because we want the heat to escape out of there as best we can. I'm going to put this down like this. And also, actually, one more thing, just to remind you, is that I'm doing this on a table or a desk, and I have this pad under me. So that's going to kind of protect this cloth bit. Not that this cloth is going to get harmed in any way, because it's quite a good sturdy cloth. And under this cloth, I actually have another table. Okay, so I'm just being quite careful that we don't burn anything, and I want you to be the same. So this is going to get very loud for a moment. Okay, this is going to get very loud for a moment. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start and stop this a little bit. And it is just going to be loud, but then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a little bit and show you how it's working for me. And then I'll just turn down my volume, because otherwise you're just going to hear the sound of a hairdryer, and that's really annoying and boring. So I'm going to start now, and then I'll come back to you in 1 second. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing there. I'm just moving the hairdryer and I'm moving the bottle around slowly like that. Okay, because the hairdryer is going to take a moment or two to heat up. Okay, a moment or two to heat up, and you just move it slowly. And you can do it about this distance away. About that distance is okay. So about maybe 20 centimeters, an inch, something like that. Okay, that distance is generally okay for a hairdryer. All right. It's also worth noting that this attachment on the end of the hairdryer means that the heat is coming straight out, whereas if that attachment wasn't there, then it would just be this nozzle of the hairdryer, and that's a lot more heat that's going everywhere. So that just means you have to be very careful if you're using a hairdryer like that about your hands not getting too close to the heat, because clearly if your hands get too close to the heat, you will burn yourself, and we do not want that to happen. Okay, so I'm going to put my attachment back on and let's go shrink. Okay, so just to tell you now, after I put it down, do not touch the plastic. Don't touch it. It will be hot. Trust me on this. Don't touch it. Let it sit for a moment. You don't even need to let it sit very long. About 10, 15, 20 seconds is all you need, and then you can touch it afterwards. But as soon as you stop blowing the hot air on it, do not touch it straight away. So now I'm going to touch it, and it's warm, but not hot. So it's okay now. And you will notice, or at least it's hard for you to see on the camera, but this has shrunk quite a lot. So if I can hold that up, so you can see that that has actually shrunk a lot. Now we haven't done the top bit yet, because there's a lot of space up there we can see. So we're going to do that bit next, and that's going to shrink. If we turn it around this way, you can see some of the bits of the bottom of the bottle have shrunk as well. But these are quite hard sometimes to get to shrink. All of those kind of bits here, these lumpy bits that the bottle stands on at the bottom. They're quite hard to shrink sometimes, but you can try it anyway. So I'm going to try the top bit now. Okay, so I'm going to try and shrink the top bit. So here we go again, some shrinking. right, so you can see, again, I'm not going to touch it, it's too hot at the moment to touch, but you can certainly see that that has started to shrink as well. Okay, so you can see that that has definitely started to shrink as well. Okay, so all that area, and I'm touching it now after about 20 seconds, so that's okay. It's warm now, it's warm, but it's not too hot to touch. So we have put loads of rubbish in our bottle, and we have shrunk it into a sculpture. So what you can do with a sculpture like this, and in fact this is a project that you can take even further, is because I have food in there, I can put the lid on the top, I think. That would be a wise thing to do. All right, and you can take something like an elastic band. I have a ball of elastic bands here. So you could take an elastic band like that, and you could wrap it around the neck of the bottle like so, and then you could hang it. Okay, and I appreciate that that's probably hard to see, so I will pop back here to the front, and see, you can hang it like this. Okay, or you can get a bit of string or a bit of twine to hang it as well, and that would be your sculpture that you can hang up. Now, is it a very pretty sculpture? Well, maybe not, but you could certainly, on your bottle, you can certainly add in different colors, and you can be very choosy about the things that you put in. So I've just, as I said, I just gathered up lots of kind of rubbish from around my house. But if you chose to put in nice bits of colored paper or tissue or even flowers, not that you want to necessarily put in flowers, but even if you had weeds or grass, but be careful what you pick from your garden. Sometimes there's thistles and spiky bits in those weeds and grass, so you have to be careful about that. But anything that you put in, you could make a sculpture and then heat it up, and it will shrink down. It will shrink down quite a lot. And the more you heat it, the longer you heat it, the more it will shrink. I didn't totally shrink mine, but the more you work at it, the more it will shrink. And there's lots of interesting things that you can do with the polyethylene terephthalamate, which again, I can't pronounce very well. It's very hard to pronounce. If I was a proper scientist, I could pronounce all of those words correctly. But with all of those plastic bottles, and again, as I said before about plastic, sometimes when you cut them, you'd have to be very careful. But if you are very careful, what you can do is you can take these kinds of bottles and you can cut them into thin strips. And if you cut them into very thin strips, and then you use those strips to tie something and heat it, then those strips will shrink and hold it very tight, very, very tight. A little bit like this. And I'm sure you'll have seen these before. So this is a cable tie. And if I put it in there like that and I pull it, then that would tighten perhaps around my fingers or whatever you want to tighten. And you can do the same with these plastic strips. If you cut plastic strips out of your bottle, not your sculpture bottle, but any other plastic bottle. And that would be a good example of a way to reuse and or recycle some of the things that you're just going to throw away as normal. And part of that is kind of what we do as makers. As I said, I'm a maker. I make things. So we look for different ways to use different materials as tools or to make something different out of them. So that kind of brings us to the end of our workshop. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you explore and see how many other things that you can make from this kind of a sculpture here, sort of an ecological sculpture, and have a think and have a chat with your peers, your friends, and have a chat with your parents and other adults in your life about recycling and about reducing waste and about reusing different things as well too. So I will sign off for today. We have some other workshops coming up tomorrow and Saturday for Credún and Og. So for me, I will always sign off in the same way to say thank you very much and to always try to engage, to explore, but always to enjoy. So thank you very much and have a wonderful day. All the best. Bye-bye.